The Boondocks comic strip early in its run was designed to explore black people living in all white areas and how they embrace their identity. It's similar to the diaspora in essentially the sense of lacking belonging. How do you deal with such a circumstance, and how does the Boondocks explore it? Before the franchise became the Grandad and Ruckus show, the Boondocks was all about the kids. And ultimately, that's what we're going to talk about. Let's get to it.
It's called Operation Black Steel.
We should call
We're calling it Operation Black Steel. I like that name. We're not changing it.
Yo, I actually forgot about this. I'm recording this in post. But just to inform people who still have no idea, the Boondocks is back. Like, not just back, but Aaron Raguda is behind it and he's making it into a video game. Sounds cool, sounds interesting. Could do without the dated memes, but this is where I come in. For the past few months, I've been working in collaboration with several artists in order to make a spiritual successor to the Boondocks Hip Hop Doctrine mixtapes. You guys know about these, right? They were released with every new season of the Boondocks, except season 4. Well, something was released, but...
And you can see about minds, I look and sound like New York right now.
I ain't gonna lie, it was kind of shit. So I'm collaborating with Dorian Nelson and the legendary Metaphor the Great to release a new mixtape for the Boondocks, and it's dropping on election day, so it's gonna be good. We worked really hard to make this, and I'll be posting the full mix on YouTube, with a download link that includes custom desktop backgrounds, phone wallpapers, and some things I can't even currently reveal. November 6, 2018, act like you know it. Before the show became the Grandad and Ruckus show, the Boondocks was all about the kids. It was an exploration into the naive minds of children and how they view the world. This could range from the radical Huey Freeman, the Brooklyn MC Cesar, to ISIS. It was a different time. Aaron Raguda used children to deliver their perceptions of reality because they're naive and they're subject to change. You can't get mad at Riley being the way he is because, you know, he's a child. The same applies for Jazmine and Huey when Aaron isn't projecting. Jazmine Dubois was always constructed as a means of exploring the naivety of a small child. She's innocent and confused about the world around her, but that's the point. He's abusing her innocence and lack of understanding of the world around her. The world feeds on naivety, so Jazmine creating her own delusions is her own undoing.
There ain't no such thing as a tooth fairy.
Then who's leaving the money?
Probably your parents. They have both the cash and the access to your room.
Why did they lie to me?
And that's kind of what The Real was all about. You know, we create our own delusions to make sense of the world, so we're left to question what is real and what is fake. Jazmine and Huey are living their own independent truth. Neither of them are exclusively right or wrong in their thoughts and action. And just because Jazmine finds comfort in what she believes in doesn't make her wrong. When Aaron explored biracial identity with Huey and Jazmine in 1999, he actually caught some heat for this. But he essentially responded in defending the integrity of Jazmine's character. Jazmine's initial appearances in the syndicated Boondocks comic strip explored her struggle with identity, and to be specific, Huey bluntly labeling her as black. Jazmine is a child attempting to adhere to Eurocentric beauty standards because that's all she sees. It's in the media, it's in greeting cards, and it's even for her own mother. She rejects her African heritage because to her own understanding, there's nothing appealing about it. From the puffiness of her hair to exoticizing her place of origin. My aunt's from Greece, my mom's part Scottish, my dad's from Vegas, Jazmine's one of them. White supremacy has made people of color feel the need to adhere to Eurocentric beauty standards. It's seen as beautiful, it's marketable, it's the face, the ideal image. Blanco was a government scheme enacted in Latin America where they sent millions of Europeans over to impregnate the women and whiten the population. Eliminate the culture. And that's just one example of how white supremacy has subconsciously made people regret their heritage and culture. Reject a part of who they are. And to a character like Huey, that's what it looks like Jazmine is doing. It might not directly be in relation to black history and African Americans, but that is a thing that they did. The lighter you are and the whiter you act, the better the chances you have at being accepted. The character of Huey is named after a Black Panther founder, a group of people known for actively embracing their African features and coining the "Black is Beautiful" moniker. Huey isn't just gonna sit by and watch, he has something to say about it. And that's what makes the relationship interesting. Now, is Jazmine dumb for thinking this way? Well, no. It's entirely possible that she just wishes to be more like her mother, like Tom said. And Huey's already known to be extreme in the comic strip. I mean, yeah, he's pro-black, but he's still a child and he's still naive. Huey accuses Sarah of being in the Ku Klux Klan because he saw a picture of her in white graduation robes. A key part of Huey's character is paranoia. It's why he's a conspiracy theorist. It's why he's essentially a little crazy. And ultimately, it was supposed to be what made him fun. And just because you see the series from his lens doesn't make his perspective any more valid. Huey starts trouble for the thrill of it. He takes pleasure in abusing what he claims to be people's delusions, and because he's a child, he overreacts. The beautiful thing about the Stink Mean episode was, before they started redoing the episode every season, was that it was everybody's fault. It was Riley's fault for instigating, Grandad for reacting in the moment, and Huey for instilling Grandad with this eye for an eye fear of survival crap that he just dreamed about. I mean, nigger moments are just basically black on black crime, right? That's kind of what it is. Operation Black Steel, the name of this video series, is a stupid plan where Huey probably would have been shot dead in his tracks. You know, Huey is smart and he knows a lot about the world around him, but he is still a paranoid child, and that's kind of what makes him interesting. It's a key part of his character. Huey in his original bio was described as a black nationalist. You know, did I say black terrorist before? Fuck. Huey in his original bio is labeled as a black nationalist, and when Aaron isn't using him to criticize BET's exploitation, you know, that's ultimately what he is and where he's supposed to stand. But does Huey have a good reason to be as paranoid as he is? Well, yeah, you know, Huey, you know, he's black and he knows his history. You know, you look at stuff like Blancomento and COINTELPRO and the struggles black people have endured just to get to where we are right now. It's understandable, you know, it makes sense.
And, you know, sometimes I'm wondering who these people are that are saying this, that believe that somehow, you know, having to sort of live as a black man and deal with racism on a daily basis, which is sometimes overt, which is sometimes covert, you know, how one can possibly blow that out of proportion. And so, you know, I think, you know, the script is so, it is not really just about this idea of the fact that America held slaves while they were winning their independence, but really about this notion of, you know, how serious, you know, should those of us who are, you know, undergoing these experiences and these hardships, you know, how serious should we be allowed to take them? And, you know, is it the right for others to come in and say, oh, you know, calm down, it's not that bad?
And I mean, Aaron's right. You know, Huey is extreme, and that much is obvious, but at what point does someone have the right to say he's taking things too seriously? Especially white people in the comfort of their own privilege. Huey's a character brought into an all-white neighborhood and feels the need to project every aspect of his blackness. Because, you know, that's what the Panthers did. Huey fears that growing up in an all-white suburb would, you know, effectively dilute his cultural understanding and make him less black because of it. And with things like racial whitening being things that the government have actually done, you have to ask again, can you really blame him? Now the question becomes, how does one embrace their blackness, and can such a concept really even be defined? Well, no. Being black isn't a concept you can easily define, so acting black is incredibly subjective. And the way one goes about doing it is entirely different to entirely different people. And the two best characters to illustrate this are the brothers thrown into the circumstance, Huey and Riley. I've already kind of detailed Huey's deal, so I'm going to go more into Riley. Huey and Riley are similar in their hostility, but different in their reasons why. And there's a comic strip that perfectly illustrates the similarities between Huey and Riley and how they approach their walk of life, despite their differences. The revolutionary and thug lifestyle have many similarities in how they reject authority and advocate for their own kind of cultural expression. Riley is a character obsessed with hip-hop culture, and therefore he produces the best and worst of the culture. Riley is modern, he's aware, and he has the drive to make money. But he also sees hip-hop as a means to look hard. You know, the reason he does it is because he wants to look hard. That's it. On the other hand, you know, Huey is obsessed with history. And by extension, that makes him produce the best and worst of that understanding too. You know, on one hand, Huey's incredibly smart, but on the other, he's incredibly paranoid and angry, and that's why no one ever wants to listen to him speak. You know, Huey and Riley are incredibly similar characters, but in different ways, and it's why they work as brothers. Huey and Riley are both anti-authority, they're both for cultural expression, they're both advocates for embracing their blackness and achieving greatness, but their reasons for doing so are different. Huey does it because revolution, Riley does it because it's hard. Huey's a black nationalist, Riley's all about making money by any means necessary.
Cause, nigga. I'm the cause. Cause I want a house. Cause I want a yacht. Cause I want to get this guap, nigga. That's the cause.
You know, there's something to genuinely respect about both of these characters and their respective grind, and that's kind of what makes them interesting. I've said this before, but Riley isn't dumb. He just doesn't care about what he doesn't care about. You know, it's all over their introductions to the school. Huey's hostile to interacting in a predominantly white environment, in fear and paranoia of losing himself in the process. And Riley's concerned with maintaining his blackness too, but it's via the image sold to him by the media as opposed to history. Huey wouldn't help an old white woman with her bags because he felt looked down on. Riley would go help the old white woman because, you know, that's money to be made. And I don't see how you can hate on that, to be honest. Riley, don't hate on the grind. Stack paper, don't go broke. Huey and Riley do what they can to embrace their blackness and maintain the image they've constructed for themselves. But it's ultimately what drives them, and that's what makes them different. Now let's go back to Jazmine. Jazmine does none of that. Jazmine rejects her African features in favor of an almost European standard of beauty, but it very easily could be because of her mother and nothing more. At the end of the day, it's not our place to judge. The title of this episode is Embrace Your Blackness, but there's no clear-cut way to do it, and the methodology given by characters like Huey and Riley have their own set of flaws easily identified in the comic strip. Huey is a character who embraces his blackness through boldly declaring his disinterest in most things that aren't, well, black. But his problem is his fear of losing himself, which turns into a paranoia which doesn't allow him to properly integrate himself into a mostly white setting. Riley is a character who embraces his blackness through conforming to an image that he sees through the media. The positive effect the lifestyle has on him is that it gives Riley a drive to make money. The negative effect is obvious with the whole bitches money hoes, get on 10 toes and be a nigga. Jazmine is a character confused about her identity, and while it very well could be that she aspires to just look more like her mother, it's blatantly evident that Jazmine doesn't see the beauty in her African features. She wants to be seen as an individual, but has a level of self-loathing which prevents her from doing so. Even if we were to look at Tom Dubois, he's a character that's presumably a lawyer for the NAACP. Him and his wife actively fight for the rights of colored people for a living, but Tom is so out of touch that he's easily regarded as an Uncle Tom. Not to the extent of Ruckus, but in how detached he is from his own culture. None of these people are necessarily wrong, and there are benefits to the ways they choose to live their lives, but it's undeniable that one could easily poke holes in the way they choose to live, and most importantly, embrace their blackness. So I must go back to the question, what does it mean to embrace your blackness? It's simple, it's about embracing every part of who you are. Black people do need unity, and it's ultimately what has helped us reach great heights and climb the ladder to get to where we currently are. But sometimes we get so caught up in unity that we fail to see the beautiful thing that makes us as individuals interesting. I mean, look at Tiger Woods, who looked at golf and said, yeah, I bet niggas really like this one. No one did. I play a lot of basketball, and that's the blackest sport out there. But I also used to skateboard, and that's the whitest thing you could do. I listen to a lot of hip hop and rap, and it's all over my videos. But I did go through a rock phase when I was watching wrestling, and rock is really white. But you see how silly it is to put labels on concepts, things, and interests with this, one drop race tag. I've gotten comments saying, you sound really white, and do I have to sound like a nigga to sound black? You dumbass, man. What makes you black is embracing every part of yourself. That means understanding some of your history. That means finding beauty in yourself. It means not shying away from cultural expression. And it means understanding your people and the world around you. But most importantly, it means understanding and accepting yourself. Because you're not just black. You're an individual who just so happens to be black. In the Story of OJ video I made, I discussed this idea of people rejecting their blackness because to some, it holds them back. The point I'm making here is accepting your blackness, but also who you are. Because ultimately, that's what makes you black, and that's also what makes you beautiful. Actively making an effort to act black is kind of silly to me, because more often than not, it just means you're embracing a commercialized image of what blackness is. Kinda like Riley. That's not designed to diss Huey and Riley's attempts to maintain who they are, because that's respectable and a struggle that many black people, including myself, can relate to in adjusting to those situations. And while I agree with Jazmine and Thomas Dubois' idea of individuality, I don't agree with how they go about rejecting an aspect of who they are in the process. You are black, so the first thing you need to do is own it, and understand that you don't need to adhere to any preconceived standard of blackness, just for the sake of acceptance or having a sense of identity. So I'm going to close this video out by addressing Aaron's perspective on the accusation that Jazmine and Huey's biracial identity strips were offensive. He stated that both these children were naive, and those were big parts of the characters respectively. To just get right to the quote, Jazmine's character is an exploration into African American identity. She's not really about the confused mulatto girl. She's about a people who are torn between Africa and North America, and confused about who we are as an ethnic group. We are, all of us, mixed. Most of us biologically, but all of us are mixed culturally. And in that sense, biracial people are not separate or apart from African Americans. Instead, they actively epitomize the African American. They personify the duality that is our entire ethnicity. Many people have wondered about my stance on biracial identity. This is it. Aaron manages to put into words why so many black people struggle to fully integrate themselves into society. Well, there's almost this identity crisis, so to speak. But the point I want to hone in on is that at the end of the day, we're all mixed culturally. And you need to find comfort in who you are and identify as something you believe in. I brought up the real at the beginning of this episode to make a point about how we're all living our own independent reality, our own independent truth, full of delusions to make us feel better about the world around us. And if we're all living our own realities, then who are we to judge and say one person is embracing who they are the wrong way? Assuming you're not blindly feeding into an image sold to you by the media, or outright rejecting an aspect of who you are. Not only are you being true to yourself, not only are you being you, but you're black. And just like a puffy cloud to an afro, that in itself is beautiful. This has been Operation Black Steel. Stay real.